Hi, this is Nathan Tintle. In this video, we're going to talk about how to classify variables as either categorical or quantitative. We'll use the organ donation example from the Introduction to Statistical Investigations textbook. After you've identified your variable or variables in the study, you can then classify these variables into one of two types. This is an important step for what comes next in statistics, where we make decisions about how to analyze data. Knowing whether the variable is quantitative or categorical is an important piece of those decisions. Quantitative variables take numerical values. You can do arithmetic on these values. You can add them, you can subtract them, you can multiply them. If you can do that with the values of the variables, then those variables are quantitative. On the other hand, if the variable is taking categorical designations, we call it categorical. Let's look at a couple of examples from the organ donation study. The first example is the variable which participant a group is in. Each participant is either in the opt-in, opt-out, or neutral group. That's a categorical variable because each person is in one of those three groups. The other variable in the organ donation study is also categorical. This variable indicates whether or not a participant has selected to be an organ donor or not. While the researchers in the organ donation study did not measure any quantitative variables, variables like the height of each participant or the age of each participant are simple examples of quantitative variables that the researchers could have used. A few cautions. Most times, identifying whether a variable is categorical or quantitative is fairly straightforward. I think the trickier part in general is identifying what the variable is. Once you've identified it, classifying it as categorical or quantitative is usually straightforward. But there are some exceptions. A common example is a variable called class standing. So if you imagine you do a survey of students at your school, and you classify each student into one of four groups: freshman, sophomore, junior, or senior. Seems like a categorical variable, and a lot of times it is. But a slightly different version of that variable, which would ask students, how long have you been at this school? And then the answer would be 1, 2, 3, or 4 years, is a lot like the class standing variable, and we consider it quantitative. So at times, it becomes a little bit of a gray area when we're trying to classify these variables, but those are certainly more the exception than they are the rule. Last point. Sometimes there are more subtle distinctions which are necessary when you're trying to use some more advanced statistical methods, so it becomes more than just categorical or quantitative. But for our purposes in this course, categorical or quantitative is just fine.